Dun, 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 dun. Welcome back. It's our second meeting of the Colleague Circle. I'm Paul Ramsay, and I'm joined by Helen Mitas today and Jason Linett. And Helen has been so kind. She's all the way in Australia, and she has been up for 36 hours. I just made that up. She's fine. So how are you guys doing?
Really
I'm
good.
Yeah?
I'm more concerned that Helen's in the future right now. So
I'm in the future. It's all happening right here in Australia. Everyone thinks we're down under, but it's all happening here first.
Exactly. Lottery numbers, please.
Lottery numbers, please. Yes. All right. So listen, we're here to talk about building a six-figure practice. Jason and Helen have done it, and they have agreed so kindly and lovingly to all of us as colleagues to share some of the nitty-gritty about what they've done. So we're going to let them tell their stories, and I hope you're sitting and taking notes, because these two are really good people, and they're going to tell you stuff that other people probably would tend to say, yeah, I'll tell you that after you take my $10,000 program. And not that they don't have a $10,000 program, but they're so good at it that they're going to give you some of that stuff now. And it's going to be your chance to really learn about what it takes to build an exceptional practice. And that's what we all want to do, right? We want to help as many people as we can, and we want to have lives that are full of freedom and abundance. And in order to do that, you got to find a model. And two models being presented to you today. I'm very excited to be able to share this with you. So we're going to start with Helen. Helen, I don't even know like your superhero origin story. So I'm so excited to hear from you. You got to tell me the whole thing from the beginning. How did this all happen?
Oh, how exciting. I love talking about myself. So it all started for me about 20 years ago when I had depression and chronic anxiety, and I had to find a way out of that. And so for me, hypnotherapy was something that helped me overcome the biggest challenge of my life. And so that's where it really began for me in terms of hypnotherapy. So it was, and for most of us, hypnotherapists, that's usually a similar sort of story where we're overcoming some sort of challenge, and that's how we fall into it. So it took a while to actually get into hypnotherapy itself. So first of all, I overcame this incredible challenge of depression where I thought I was stuck, where I thought that I had no choice in terms of what I needed to do next in my life. And as I subsequently became empowered with regards to, we've got somebody else that's just joined us. Did you realize that, Paul?
Yeah, we'll have people who can drop in to be part of the audience, Helen, and I'll just mute them as they come in, and they'll be asking questions later. So that's okay. Don't let that be.
Okay, no worries. And so what actually happened was I became emotionally strong. I became quite empowered. And so because I felt so good on the inside, it was time to feel good on the outside. And so I then went on this fitness health kick, and subsequently became, fitter in my 40s than I was in my 20s. And I was in corporate at that time. So I was working in corporate Australia as a senior project manager. So my whole deal was just to climb that corporate ladder. That's what it was. It was to get one promotion after the other. And for a time, that was really fulfilling. But then what happened was that I decided that this wasn't just floating my boat anymore, that I thought, oh my God, I have been working in corporate Australia now for 22 years. And I figured out that I was only halfway. I figured out that I still had another 22 years to go before I even thought about retiring. And when that realization hit me, it was like, I cannot do this anymore. I just cannot add to the bottom line of big corporations, because that was my sole purpose. I used to work for regulation for a big power company, and so our whole purpose was to convince the regulator that we needed to increase prices for electricity supply. And so we would do whatever we could to convince the regulator that that's what we needed to do. We put every single case forward. So it wasn't a really feel-good feeling going home at night, it in terms of my life's purpose, which was really to help the big corporations become even wealthier. That was my whole role. So then what happened, and usually what happens when you make a decision, something will occur in the universe to facilitate that. And so I made the decision that something had to change. So one of my colleagues who worked at the consultancy company that I work for, she had already resigned, and she had written a book, and her book was getting launched the next day. And it was called, can I grab it? I'll show you. And it was called 30-something and... Oh! 30-something and over it. And so the title spoke to me. I thought, I'm not 30-something, I'm 40-something, but I'm over it. And so I had to, find out what this was about, and I had to read it immediately. And I read it immediately. And what she's basically saying in this book, Casey Edwards, is that we've all got this baby that we need to nurture in our life. And it's our duty to nurture our baby. And I thought, I don't even know what my baby is. What is my baby? So what I had to do was start to notice the parts of my day that were, that really got me interested and excited. And what I noticed was it was the chats that would happen in the lunchroom at work, where people would say to me, because at this time I was really addicted to exercise. So no matter how busy I was, every single lunchtime I was out of there running, doing what I had to do. And people would say, Helen, you're amazing. You're so inspirational. You always exercise no matter what. And I would say, you can do that too. And we'd have these conversations. And they say, oh, no, I can't because for whatever reason. And then the next day they would come and say, you wouldn't believe it. I just did this. And I thought, oh, good on you. And I thought, well, this is my baby. This is my baby. My baby is to help people overcome their limiting beliefs and their fears to a more compelling life. This is what I need to do. And then I thought, well, I can't just talk to people. That's not a job. Like, what do I do now? Now that I know that this is my baby, which is really, I had overcome depression, and I'd, embrace fitness and become very fit and had this lifestyle that I was really happy with. What do I do to help people do that too? And so that's when I started down the hypnotherapy path. But before then, I still didn't know. And so I went down another path first. And that's what I always tell people, is that you don't immediately know, but you take one step, and then that step will actually give you the clarity to take the next step. So initially I was thinking of becoming a personal trainer, like physically train people. So I went to a couple of schools and had interviews with them. And then I thought, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to train people. And then I thought, okay, maybe I need to become a sports nutritionist. And so then I became a sports nutritionist, and I found it very boring. And I thought, that's not exciting either. And then it sort of came that it's all about what's going on in here that's exciting for me. And I had to find the most powerful way of getting in there. And for me, there's nothing more powerful than hypnosis. And so then the path started for me in terms of, doing what I needed to do. The first course that I did was Tad James. So I became a master practitioner of timeline therapy and NLP. And I convinced the company that I was working for that it would benefit them as well. And so they paid for half the course, which was really good. So that was the very first thing I did. And then subsequent to that, I did a diploma of hypnotherapy at the Academy of Hypnotic Science here in Melbourne. And then many, many, many courses after that. So that was my path in terms of becoming a hypnotherapist. So it all started with a personal challenge, and then it ended up that I realised that was my purpose in life.
That's awesome. Help me tighten up the actual timeline just a little bit so people understand sort of what your scale was. So when did you start your hypnotism business?
Okay. I finished Tad James the 31st of May, 2010. So that's when I completed my studies. That's before I did my diploma. So we have, in Australia, we have a certificate here and we have a diploma. So it's before I even did my diploma of hypnotherapy, but in my mind, as soon as I finished Tad James, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
So I was still working full-time in corporate Australia at that time because we actually have really big mortgages here in Australia. So I'm talking $1 million. So, you know, between myself and John, we owed $1 million. We were both on six-figure salaries, you know, in corporate Australia, and I was responsible for 50% of, you know, the mortgage repayments. And so I couldn't just one day decide that I was, you know, earning an income that was secure, and then the next day, let's just see how we go with hypnotherapy. That was not going to happen because I had to make sure that, you know, I did this, you know, without risk. Right. And that's the way that I did it. I did it in a way that it was very calculated and very strategic, and I transitioned from full-time senior project manager to full-time hypnotherapist with a system that I just made up, really.
Yep. And so give me the year for when did that transition occur? You implemented that whole model for yourself and you went full-time when?
So I went full-time within the year. So within that year, I went full-time. So to begin with, my very first paid client was August 2010. So there were a number of people that I was doing work for in terms of my family. You know, I was very excited about what I had learned and I wanted to implement it straight away. And so people were saying, you know, you never do it on family and all this sort of rubbish. And it is just rubbish because if I've got amazing skills, why wouldn't I use it on my family? And so, of course I would. And so no matter who told me that you should never do it on family, I don't listen to what other people say. I decide for myself. And I worked on a lot of friends, a lot of family, and they did end up being an advertisement for me because unless you experience the change yourself, you're not going to tell other people about it. So prior to them experiencing this change, they thought I was nuts. They thought I was absolutely crazy to leave a secure, well-paid job, you know, to become a hypnotherapist. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But once they experienced the change themselves, they told everybody about it. Otherwise, they would not have done that. So my first paid client was August of that year, which was one of the most euphoric moments of my life.
Well, so I'm sorry, August of what year?
2010. So I finished.
You had everything transitioned within a year, though.
In terms of transition, yes.
Yeah,
everything.
You got your diploma, and within a year, you're going at it. Like you're.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So absolutely, once I've decided something, try and stop me. So August 2010 was my first paid client, and remember, I'd only just finished studying 31st of May. So that was my first paid client. And it all sort of took off from there. And so do you want to know my transition as to how I did that?
No, not that just yet.
Okay.
I think let's circle back to that. But so just to give sort of a little bit of a quicker developmental timeline. So how long until you were doing six figures just with hypnotism?
Within my first year of full-time hypnotherapy, my goal was to get 200 grand that year. I just fell short. I got 165. So that was my first full-time year of hypnotherapy. And
then you've held or exceeded that level since then?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hold it because that wouldn't be.
I love you. You're funny.
That's my first year. Why would I want to stay as my first year? So no. So it actually went up periodically every single year. And then what happened was that I found that I reached a point probably in my third year where I just couldn't bust. I was earning about 25 grand a month at that stage in my third year. And I couldn't, no matter how much more I was working long hours, I was busting my gut. I thought, I can't get to another level. Like, I can't, I'm already charging, like, I'm already in terms of rates, right up there in terms of, the kind of rates that I'm charging my clients. I can't work anymore. I can't charge anymore. I can't bust this 25 grand a month. But then what actually happened at that time was I was with a business coach, and my previous business coach had been saying to me for a good 18 months, Helen, you need to hire someone else. You need to hire someone else. And I went, but no one's like me. They can't look after my clients, my reputation, and all this sort of, limiting beliefs. And then with my business coach, what we did was we put it to paper. So he said, how much do you want to earn? And I said, I want to earn 500 grand. So how do we do that? So we blocked out the actual time schedule in terms of how I did that. And it became very obvious by looking at it written down on a piece of paper that it was impossible for me to earn that money without hiring somebody else who could work at the same time that I was working. Mm-hmm. It was impossible. So it was either I did it or I would stay at that level. And so as soon as I saw that it's the only way, I went boom into hiring mode. So I instantly went into hiring mode and overcame my limiting beliefs about no one being like me and as good as me and all the rest of it, and hired my first staff member at that point.
So today, all right, so now one final overview. So today you run one office?
I run one office. I have two hypnotherapists that work for me and about 6 admin staff.
Okay. And that office is doing, give me your big final number. That right now you're performing at what level?
Our revenue per month is 45.
Okay. That's awesome.
Which is the average annual salary of a Australian hypnotherapist. So what we earn in 1 month is what the average hypnotherapist earns in a year.
Yeah.
So what I want in terms of my target is, I want 7 figures. I don't want 6 figures.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want. Yeah.
Good for you. All right. We're going to put you on hold. We're going to go to Jason and we're going to hear Jason's story. Jason, same thing. Give me your beginning story and we'll work you forward to that final kind of appraisal by the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The origin story really dates back to my welcome week of college when Tom DeLuca, a stage hypnotist, came to my school, and I'm watching and go, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. And for the next basic 5-6 years or so, it was a time frame of, at one point, building a career working in management in the arts, specifically, mostly stage management in theater. So not acting, directing, or designing. My job was to be the wizard behind the curtains, calling the cues, organizing rehearsals, dealing with unions, and making all the creative people get along, which is, I like to say, if that's not psychological training, I don't know what is. So burned out beautifully in that career, by the way. I can now sit in an audience. That's a new development. Though along that journey, it was where I saw Tom do this show, and the early part of me was a hobby of all things magic and, mentalism. And that easily sort of translated over to learning some of the stage hypnosis side of things, which then began to become just another offering. As my way through college, I was working Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, doing a magic show and paying my tuition by it. I was designing and selling shows to the corporate park, even at about 19, 20 years old at the time. So I mentioned that magic background because there was a frustration I had with that, which was that if I could really do this magic trick, why the hell would I have all these props? So there was this sanding down to If I was going to read your mind, why would I have you write something down? Just do it. And with the hypnosis, suddenly no props other than the interaction with the people on stage. So again, the story began with the stage hypnosis side of things, doing my first, I would say, paid shows at a relatively lower basis, probably 2005, 2006. Around 2007, 2008, getting a little bit more serious with some of the training. Now, inside of this, though, is the fun anecdote of buying all sorts of things on eBay, thinking I was going to get stage hypnosis training, and instead getting a whole bunch of hypnotherapy textbooks, reading them cover to cover, going, this isn't what I wanted. Interesting. This isn't what I wanted. So that was the intention, to then reach out and do a more formal hypnosis certification class, which he tells the same anecdote, I'll mention it here too, of being there at day one of my NGH certification with Shawn Michael Andrews. And we're watching video clips of Jason Linett having just been on television doing hypnosis, which was an interesting dynamic to kick off the class. So honestly, I was the stage hypnotist already working at that time. I left the theater job around 2008. Now, to give an alternate version from Helen's story, she was coming from a very successful career, and the goal was to launch another career that would be just as successful. Remember, I was working in nonprofit arts. Nonprofit arts are nonprofit for damn near everybody involved. So the initial goal was a playful one, to go, okay, I was working 80 hours a week, getting paid for about 36 of them. Yeah, unions. And deciding, okay, I would have to completely bomb at this to not beat $24,000 a year. Okay, let's see what happens. And I believe, if I remember right, the first year full-time out, 2008 timeframe is about when I left the theater job. I was scaling back the hours dramatically. One little specific thing that I did in terms of that transition was that most people don't want to work just production. You either can work rehearsals or you can work production. To work production, you're working 5 o'clock in the afternoon till 11 at night, and you have no life. I chose that route. Why? Because now I had 9 to 5 to incubate, to build all my materials, to go through my trainings, to go to local events and further that education. So when suddenly here came what I perceived to be the dream job, working in theater, I was able to look at it and go, I mean, at this point, I was balancing a full-time stage hypnosis career, earning about twice as much money, meanwhile still technically working a full job in theater. So it was the offer of, oh, we can give you this salary now. And I'm looking at it quite honestly and going, I'm already earning that part-time with hypnosis. Why the hell would I do this? And it was a no-brainer of a decision, and just have not ever looked back. So around that 2008 timeframe, I was primarily working with high schools. Now, the way that I'd frame it nowadays is that I was a stage hypnotist with a hypnotherapist heart. So what I mean by that was always looking at, I was there, yes, to provide some sort of entertainment program, but really at its core, I was there to solve some sort of issue, to produce some sort of solution. So most often I was at a high school, and perhaps here's the assembly that I'm doing, and what is the message that needs to land with these students? Here I am, and it's one of these 3 or 4 in the morning prom shows, grad party shows. And again, I am there to provide a safe, clean environment, because that's what this environment of that is for. There I was doing a fundraiser, and back into the corporate side of things. Okay, here is the corporate funny show that they've hired, yet why did they hire me? Hey, this was the year we cut our staff into a third. And basically, this is the event to let people know that they're not getting fired. Go out there, make them smile. So having that mindset into it, that we're always producing some sort of solution. And over that time, the NGH training was in the back of my head, and I was sending so many referrals out. This is about now late 2010 is the time frame, at which point, my wife is now pregnant with now our daughter, Claire. And the goal was to go, you know what? I want to work more around home. At that point, I was doing 300 to 450 school shows a year. I was doing quite a bit. I would go in, I would do an assembly here, I do a fundraiser there, and do this quick little 5 or 6 day tour, and then come back home. Putting a lot of miles on a car, working a lot of crazy hours across the country. The catchphrase became from Alexandria to Alaska, which was silly because one was a city and the other one was a state. But just getting to the point of realizing there's got to be a better way. And that's the origin story behind Virginia Hypnosis, which the original thought was, you know what, let me do this. Let me find some sort of temporary space and just kind of fill in some extra time. I'm mostly doing these programs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I can probably see clients Monday through Wednesday. Well, that schedule was not as routine as I perceived it to be. So just simply put, I discovered quickly I wasn't going to play well with others. So it became, let me find my own space. I'm going to do one thing here, which is to praise the hell out of myself and pat myself on the back because I want all of you to have the full responsibility and right to do this as well. The best way to tell the story is, this was only a couple of years ago. The business was already launched, and I was now launching another range of my business. And this is set around family that, oh, I'm now going to go into this as well. And family members going, well, I don't know, is that going to work? You know, is there really a market for that? And this was, the hypnosis business was already built out. The training business was already built out. And then Michelle, my wife, just chimed in, when Jason says he's going to do something, he does it and it works. And I went, that's why I married her. And hey, Paul, I think it's just pulling your screen, just so you know. I'm looking here. I think you've got to click around, just a little Zoom thing. The paid version doesn't do the toggling as well, I found.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that if at the top of the screen, if you click on my image, it may toggle over.
I've got you on my center screen.
Oh, okay, yeah, never mind then. So story continues. Where were we? So it's that mindset to give yourself that full right to embrace the things that you are good at. So there's this tenacious aspect of myself that when I'm going to do something, I'm going to make it happen. So the decision quickly became, you know what, let's not play with this part-time office. I am signing a big, scary lease, and I'm going to make this thing work. And I did. So there's something to be said. I use the reverse metaphor of trying to get a 4-year-old out of a swimming pool. They don't want to get out. So the opposite of that is to go, I am jumping into that pool, and this is what I'm going to make happen, and I'm not going to make any excuses for it. So the real history lesson here was that there was a local meetup group that I attended. And I attended the month before I opened up Virginia Hypnosis, and then the month after I opened up Virginia Hypnosis. As I opened up, I'm hearing a lot of scarcity, a lot of fear. Now, I know these people now, they're friends, and I don't think they were speaking from a place of competition or fear that I was coming into the market. They were genuinely concerned. It's going to be slow your first year in hypnosis. You maybe should have tapered off a little bit more easily. You shouldn't have quit. You shouldn't be pulling back your shows. And the next time I'm at that meeting, I have a fully packed schedule, and I'm earning more per session than most of the people in that group. So you fast forward a month or two later, and there's the new hypnotist in town now speaking to this group about how to grow your business. And that's where the whole Jason Linett talking about business to hypnotist side of what I do really launched off. Which it was that mindset of a couple of points here. I bounce between two specific strategies. One is insane calculation and planning. Let me strategically go through and map out, here's the step that I'm going to take, here's what's going to happen next, here's the next phase, and here's the whole plan. Now let me put this whole thing together, and let's now start to build this. I bounce between that and this other strategy that I now lovingly refer to as, hey, watch this, which is that mindset of just shotgunning something. And again, from that mindset, it's something that from the hypnotherapeutic standpoint, I think we all need to hear this message. There's none of this game of that technique works and that technique doesn't work. Oh, you should never use this induction at all. Oh, you should only use this one strategy. If you don't use this technique, you're not going to get results. That doesn't move us forward. It's instead to step off to the side and ask, how am I going to make that work better? And that's been the filter behind all that I've ever done, to go, what are the systems inside of this? So launching Virginia Hypnosis, within the first year, the full time of that, I believe, if I remember the number right, it was an odd number of like 78,000 was coming in just from Virginia Hypnosis the first calendar year. But that was still while working a full-time stage hypnosis career. Now, then as the family began to grow, I was taking this one down and bringing this one up, to which nowadays I'm typically only doing a couple of shows a month, but I have not actively advertised stage hypnosis in like 3 years. The wonders of the school market, I'm just working the same venues. I'm working the same schools. I'm working some of the same corporate groups. I 2 schools rebooked Thursday this past week in a matter of a 5-minute phone call. Hey, our event's this night. Okay, great. You get me this year. I'm in town. So another school calls up. Hey, we want this one. Hey, I'm at this convention that week. We're going to send Matt. So the aspect of taking one down, replacing it with the other. I refer to a time frame in my life as being BC, which is officially now in my language before children, where I was working this insane schedule. At the time, my wife was commuting back and forth from Northern Virginia to Washington, D.C. for a job. So she was gone 7 in the morning till about 7 at night, to which I thought, hey, I'm young, let's burn out now. So I was working these hours from an 8:30, a 9:30, an 11, a 1 o'clock, a 2:30, a 4, and a 6. Wrap up, and I was doing that 5 or 6 days a week. I always come back to the phrase of, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it the rest of your life. And that being said, you were always empowered to reinvent the model. So it was where, again, back to that origin story of being there at that meetup group and people going, wow, how did you do that? At that point, I'm there at the meeting again with front page news coverage. I'm there with TV clips and teaching what I had done. So the aspect of training hypnotists, again, some of these mindsets of building systems, it's the same strategies in terms of the business as it would be for actually working with our client. So it's the mindsets that can come out of this, and we can jump into some of this, I'm sure, later in terms of specific strategies, that rather than advertising or marketing, it's always for me a mindset of campaigning and relationship management. So this is what led to the training business. This is what then launched the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, featuring outstanding guests like Helen Mitas. And Paul Ramsay released this week as well. We need to start emailing that one out, Paul. We always wait a couple of days to see the natural social cycle. Don't take it offensive. So the aspect of nowadays, the lifestyle is, while many people are aiming for that 6-figure business, I am running 3 separate 6-figure businesses inside of my hypnosis business. So it's where, again, to challenge the model that there was a time where I had associate staff. I took on a former student for the summer working in my office, though at the same time to increase that reach in such a way that even as we're all hanging out here, there are people interacting with my content, whether it's Virginia Hypnosis, whether it's the live trainings, whether it's the digital courses that I run. So it's that mindset of, again, the one-to-one is empowering. The stories over the years of people making changes and the feedback that comes in from these clients and the ways that we can really see that story through. What I really love, I think, more about the working with clients side of things is that there's this amazing instant gratification to the process on all counts. Paul, you do a ton of shows and, hey, did you get the contract? Okay. Follow up a couple of weeks later. Haven't received the deposit yet. You're smiling a little too big on that one. You've been through that one way too many times. As opposed to, hey, I've actually got next week, Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Is that a fit? And it's done. And given some of the systems inside of my business, I fire off that welcome email, and they've now immediately prepaid online. There's the cash flow. There's the instant gratification on that. Here's the client at the beginning of the session, and in the words of the great Michael Elner, hope is realistic. You're getting that change in motion. They're walking out of your office a different person. They're back in the office again the next time, and the change is already there. So there's this amazing instant gratification that if we look at what we do as hypnotists in a much bigger way, I mean, for the stage hypnotist, it's not just your show. It's all the anticipation leading up to it. It's everything that happens during, and it's all the interaction that follows afterwards. There is no other form of entertainment that satisfies that specific goal. And with the hypnosis process, the more we can break them out of this, wait and see how it goes, hope it works. Well, we'll try things out for the week. No, when they're leaving with that conviction that things are different, that is just this incredible sensation. So that's really the drive that pulled me away from the traveling around. The thought was never be the rock star or the Vegas act, because my Vegas was a high school gym in Portland, Oregon at 3 a.m. Being at a school where the principal is saying, thank you for bringing something to this school.
Yeah.
Because they're in the middle of nowhere and nothing travels through. But again, that instant gratification, which again, to bring some of these mindsets inside of the business side of it as well. But again, time frame was 2005 to about 2007 or 8, kind of waffling just as a hobby with the stage hypnosis, launching full time with that for a span of about 2 years. I came from a family, this is worth noting, that nearly everyone in my family was self-employed.
Wow.
So that entrepreneurial mindset where my father leaving his job, driving a truck for a plastics company and deciding instead, I'm going to be a wedding photographer. My grandfather opening up furniture stores, jewelry stores. So the mindset of, quote, running off and joining the circus in some format was not anything out of the ordinary because we were all self-made people. But again, I wanted to highlight to embrace that aspect and to work on that strategy yourself in terms of, I'm going to make this work rather than, we'll see how it goes. You know, the clients are not coming into our office to kind of create the change, to sort of produce the change. We're there to make something happen. And to bring that same mindset into your business, that's really where the success comes from, I found.
Right. That's awesome. So Jason, just so that we're, again, I told people we're going to talk about the raw numbers. So like 2016, break down your three segments for me. What'd they do?
The 3 segments, 2016, I know this because my, fun story, my accountant looked at the fact that I mostly membership recurring payments for my products. And as she saw that, she goes, remember how you used to have a bunch of $500 transactions and now there's like several $147 transactions? You're filing late and I'm paying your penalties. So the specific numbers, just because I looked at it recently, I don't have it in front of me at the moment. I believe Virginia Hypnosis, which is the live brick and mortar, come into my office, let's sit down and do this. That was about 150, 165. Though I would constantly come back to the phrase of nowadays, I am working at the capacity that I want within that business. At one point, I was seeing upwards of 25 to 30 clients a week. Now I've got it locked in at about 12. And only as now both kids are in school, Mondays are now a thing in my world. The training arm of that in 2016 was about 120, 130. And then the digital product side of things, the digital online access interaction, which some of that is in terms of Muggles general purpose, though a lot of that is now taking some of this knowledge out to the hypnosis community and inspiring people to think bigger. That crossed over to be about 130, I believe, last year.
Great. Good for you. So this is
what I know as of right now, the P&L statements are showing that things are up this year as well from last year.
Nice. So you guys, the big thing is, this is why I was so happy to have Helen and Jason on at the same time, is you get to see different. I mean, they're clearly they're doing some of the same stuff, but they're doing different stuff and they're both crushing it, you know? And that's one of those things that I think is important to take away from this is I didn't want to do an interview or a webinar with people that would sort of create this feeling that there's only like one worthy model out there, and that if you're not doing it, that you're like done for, you know. If you want to run 3 divisions under one umbrella like Jason, you can do that.
And the 4th is launching next month.
Figure out how to do it. If you don't want to do that, if you want to do something more like what Helen's doing, Helen can help you do that. Like there are people doing this.
And can I just say that there's a key difference between Australia and the US, which I noticed, is that we don't have many stage hypnotists here. Yeah. And so most of the hypnotherapists in Australia have come from a place where something has happened in their own life that they have overcome, and that's why they've become hypnotherapists. And so what I found when I was looking at the numbers in terms of what Americans were earning, the hypnotherapists there, the reason why, in Australia, the average salary of a hypnotherapist is 48,000. In America it's 58,000, is simply because there are so many stage hypnotists that bring the figure up, when in fact your average hypnotherapist in the USA is actually earning much less. Yes. And so we don't have that in Australia. We have a few stage hypnotists, but not many, and so they don't affect the numbers or in terms of who we are. And so we do come from a different space, and that's why it really is my clinic that's earning me my bread and butter. That's what's earning me my bread and butter. And that's what I help people do, is how they, without stage hypnosis, I've done 1 stage hypnosis act. Now I can, say that I've done that when I was in the US recently. So I've done once, but that's it. William's trying to get me to come back and do my own show, but I don't know about that. And so, my business model is all about a hypnotherapy business and how to expand that to whatever it is that you want.
Helen, is your long-term vision to stay completely focused on hypnotherapy as a business? Like, or are you looking to diversify into like selling people supplements and other like revenue streams, or you're like, nope, we're just staying with this?
Yeah, no, I'm not into supplements or anything like that.
I just like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, but where I'm next going, which it's actually ready, is I want HypnoFit to be a global brand. And so I've got the contracts already signed up, all ready to go, where I want to sell the HypnoFit license to licensees. So that's what I want HypnoFit itself to be a global brand. And so I'm ready to sell it, basically. Yep. So that's what I want. So that's going to be another income stream. So apart from the training that I do, apart from the hypnosis that I do. So like Jason, when I first started in the business, I was seeing too many clients and I went to burnout. There was a period of time when I did 15 months straight with not a single day off. Not a single day off. And I lost my voice. I got a chest infection. I couldn't speak. I was burnt out. And so I learned many lessons about what I needed to do the following year so that wouldn't happen again. So now, basically, 95% of my clients go to my 2 hypnotherapists. The ones that work with me pay 50% more. That's one. And they are only working with me upon my invitation. So I won't even offer my services to people that I really, really don't desperately want to work with. I would prefer to spend most of my time these days mentoring hypnotherapists, which gives me the greatest joy. So that's what I do. So I see very few, because I've literally seen thousands of clients, and I feel like I'm at the point now where I can pick and choose who I want to work with. So if somebody comes into my clinic and I'm thinking, oh, geez, I'd love to work with this person, then I will offer them my services. But if I don't have that excitement, then I don't. I only offer them to work with either of my 2 ladies. And so I guess I feel like I've earned my stripes, and I can do that now because, being a business owner, we don't want to be a salaried business owner where it's just another job. We want to work with the people that we get the greatest joy from. Yeah. We want to do the stuff that gives us the greatest joy. And so if it doesn't give us the greatest joy to work with that particular client, then why do it? It's my business, right? So whereas previously my mindset was I have to work with that person, even though that person is not gelling with me, because it's going to make me a better therapist. And it did. It really did. So I believe that when you first start out, you should You should work with all types of people, all types of challenges, and your most difficult clients are your greatest teachers of all. But then there comes a time when you go, you know what? I prefer to work with this type of person. That's what I'm working with. Yeah. So I've changed as well in terms of, it sounds to me that Jason has remodeled and he's working in a way that gives him the greatest joy. And that's what I'm doing. And for me, travel is a part of that. I've just come back from Sydney on the weekend, trained hypnotherapists there. I'm going to Brisbane and Perth, and we've got long distances here in Australia. In November, I'm going to Adelaide in December. And so, you know, for me, traveling is something I love, and meeting and connecting with people across the globe is something I want to continue doing. And so it's all about, you know, this time in my life, it's all about what's going to give me the greatest joy.
There's a nuance I'd love to highlight on that for you, which is that, the great book, E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, the phrase is always working on your business rather than just in your business. And, you know, anyone interacting with this should take note that it's your right to choose the lifestyle that you're going to build. Again, there's not just one way to go about doing this. So as I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old at home, and I like being around them, it's where travel is not as much as one of my goals. And the mindset is, how can I bring the world to me? So it's this mindset of, again, of increasing that reach that, we're a community that at one point would say on certain things, oh, the training isn't as good unless you're in the room. The change process isn't as good unless you're in the room. But again, to step into that mindset of, well, how do I make that work differently? How do I make that work better? That, again, it comes back to that suggestibility that we all ought to have in terms of looking at these models and going, how do we address this in such a way? On top of that, I just still love being in my office and being there with those clients. Though at the same time, the interaction of here's, the effect that someone will come up to me and they've listened to every podcast that I've done and they've been building that relationship. Here's the student in the class who already has that relationship. Here's the person calling me to sign up for a series of appointments. And the way that I'm able to close a high dollar package of sessions on the phone in a short amount of time is that they've already been interacting with me in such a way that I didn't necessarily have to be the one there live doing it. So this mindset of just duplicating myself is what really motivated everything, and then launched into these other markets, which is I dropped the phrase of, yes, these are the 3, but the 4th is launching next month. So this mindset of, again, of what is it that we do best? How can we better serve this process in a way that, yes, it benefits our clients, it benefits those around us, though you do have that right to be a little greedy sometimes and say, this is where I want to focus my time.
Exactly. And what you said, Jason, is, in terms of you want to be at home. Well, my son's 24 years old, so I don't need to look after him anymore. He can look after himself as far as I'm concerned. So, if I had a little boy, of course, I would be completely different in terms of, what I wanted to do. But, I don't have those sort of responsibilities anymore. And so I don't have to stay here, so I choose not to. But for me, Jason, and I'm sure it is for you as well, it comes from really, what I want more than anything, and my whole mission is for as many hypnotherapists across the globe to be successful.
Yes.
And I really, really, with all my heart, want that. And that is because that's the only way that we're going to change the way things are done in society. It gets me quite upset when I hear about adolescents going to their GP for anxiety and they put them on Xanax and they put them on antidepressants and so on, when people don't understand that they need to come to us first so that they can be helped with their own natural resources. And that's why I want hypnotherapists to be successful, because it's not enough for myself to be successful, for Jason to be successful, for Paul Ramsay to be successful. That makes no difference. As much as we're trying to make a difference, it's not enough. It's got to be that most of us are successful. And so that's why there's nothing that makes me happier when like yourself, when I get those stories from hypnotherapists that say, oh, because of your program, Helen, I'm now working in my business full time. I'm now seeing so many clients. This is what I'm now doing. And That's what gives me the biggest joy.
Which anyone out there who might have this small tendency, I'm seeing a lot less of this than I did a few years ago, of the how do I charge for this, that savior syndrome side of it, that it's, how do I charge for this? Who am I to do this? The phrase that I keep coming back to is just that, again, the more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. So there was a thread at one point, I forget, in one of the Facebook groups that was around, here's what I'm earning and I'm doing that. I'm not, taking the easy way out doing trainings. And I'm going, wait, what? Because I can be in that room and here's this recent event that there's 15, there's 30 people there. And now they have that ability to go out and replicate all this stuff. So it's where you'll consistently find some of the most successful people within this business or any business are the ones who are, yes, they do have products out there, yet they're also willing to just give it all away. Here's what's working. Here's the way to do it. Here's where to get out there and do that. That, any of us could be there with the clients at a one-to-one basis. Though, again, it comes back to that phrase of that duplication. As much as I can duplicate within other hypnotists who are now making use of these strategies, finding the mechanisms to duplicate myself as well, so that learning process is even more direct.
Yeah. You guys are great. Hey,
nice when we're all agreeing, isn't it?
We're all agreeing how great we are.
Hey, Jason,
I disagree with that, Paul.
You love tech and that you've got a lot of different things that you're comfortable using. What would you, if for people who want to sort of get a sense of, how you work in that regard, like just quickly, how would you easily say, like, where do most of your clients come from across the three areas? Do you have similar systems that are driving everyone, or are they really different?
Yeah, the one thing, this is my moment, like in the movie The Graduate, where someone looks at Dustin Hoffman's character and says, plastics. That's the future. If I had to bring it all down to one specific strategy, it's online videos. That people are, and listen for the embedded language inside of this, people are able to meet me before they even come into my office. People are able to interact with me before you sign up for my class. You're able to learn from me before you buy my products. So it's that mechanism that it's that one-to-one. They're getting to know you. They're building that rapport. They're building that trust. They're building that value. It does provide a little bit of a almost celebrity moment where they're coming into the office and they've already been interacting with you.
Right.
There's a couple of points I'd share on that because there's a fun moment where I was at an event where someone raised their hand and says, what do I do if I'm not comfortable on camera? And like the smart aleck that I can often be, I go, hypnosis is really good for overcoming fears and boosting confidence. That being said, I'm here, and one little nuance, if you're ever with a computer, look at the lens, not the camera, not the screen, otherwise you look a little insane. So it's where in my mind, that little green light here on my laptop is that person who absolutely needs to hear this message. And unless I'm passionate about it, they're not going to take any effect. They're not going to take any action moving forward.
Right.
So the origin of that was that the initial stage of everything I did with Virginia Hypnosis was fully built out by way of network marketing. I know Helen also talks about BNI and various networking groups as well. And that's where, that was that opportunity to kind of workshop what was it that I was saying? What was it that I was talking about? And as I noticed, some of these things were becoming, I don't want to say rote memory, but some of the same themes were popping up. Well, as soon as I produce this video of that and stick that here, I don't have to do that ever again. As soon as I have this video here, if you go to VirginiaHypnosis.com, click the Stop Smoking tab. There is a video of me with the big jar of cigarettes that people have thrown out. And the whole reason I did the video was just for the payoff at the end, which was that, yeah, I know this jar doesn't look that full. Clang, here comes the second jar, because this one was already too full. And there's a trash bag of them in the back. Because I have that video, my Stop Smoking client is coming in the door, cigarettes already in hand, crumpling them up, throwing them away before I even have to do a moment about it.
Right.
And that's where that stop smoking process is beginning. So I tell that story because some people would be a little critical of the strategy and go, oh, but people need to have me there. They need that personal touch. And my response is they're actually getting even more of a personal touch the way that I'm doing it. Now, for anybody who would look at some of the videos that I have, there's a fun ongoing gag. Hypnotic Business Systems is the private community that I run. There's a Facebook group. And sometimes I throw up the confidence builder video, which is the polite phrasing of the video where I launch into my little routine that I'm going to talk through. Here's what you should be looking for. Here's this thing. And I suddenly now call it by the wrong name. I utter some sort of expletive and I have to do the takeover again. So if you ever look at a Jason Linett or a Paul Ramsay or Helen Mitas video and you go, wow, it looks so good. For anybody who's not done video before, you're only seeing the last take.
Yeah.
And there's a nice little confidence builder. And the technology doesn't have to be that crazy. I have a lot of tech stuff behind what I do. I don't do most of it anymore because I have a black belt in outsourcing. So I don't do most of it myself these days because I don't want to and I shouldn't. If I can earn upwards of $350 or more for this little chunk of time, I ran a workshop the other night that in 2 hours time, it generated more than $2,000 by the time it was over with. And for someone else to edit the video for $20 an hour, go for it. Let them do it. So it doesn't have to be expensive. And I've got a lot of crazy equipment, but some of my best videos are shot with my phone. Some of the most converting videos were shot with my laptop with my microphone off to the side.
Sure.
People will watch a fuzzy image with high quality sound, but they won't watch a HD image with crappy sound.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Yeti. Put the money in the sound.
Let me go to
So
Helen. Helen, same thing.
Down to what's the content for those videos? What are the questions people typically ask you? There's a video. What are some of the components of each and every one of these things? It's where when I work with someone for a coaching process one-to-one, one of the first strategies I give them, one of the first homework assignments, and anyone else can take this on, come up with 100 subjects to do videos about.
Yeah.
Which you might hear that and go, wait, that's a lot. I didn't tell you to shoot them all. But it becomes that moment that suddenly you've got a little bit of time in the office, bang on another one, or even better, batch record them. Weight loss. Weight loss is not just one thing. You can do a weight loss video about exercise motivation. You can tell a story about a client who was really successful. You can tell a story about a client who had a funny thing happen to them as a result of this. You can talk about reducing specific things. You can talk about people who need to have weight loss behaviors, but not necessarily weight loss goals. There's a video I've been circulating of a diabetic eliminating a sweet tooth. His goal wasn't weight loss, but he was looking for that because he goes, someone who would do this. So it comes down to, again, the main thing here is that content is king.
Yeah.
And it's where that ability to build rapport remotely. This is what makes it so when a client calls me, they're practically already signed up. When a student is calling me for a class to sign up for a $2,000 event, they're basically calling just to confirm that the dates are there when clearly they are. Right. So they're already establishing that relationship. And you could write some of the most beautiful words and the most wonderful descriptive language on your websites, but most people aren't going to read it. The majority of web traffic is happening on devices just like this, and it's where video is grabbing the most attention, and that's where I really say that's where your time should be the most focused. Right. I go to marketing conventions because I like that stuff, and the more money I've paid into those communities, the more people are telling you, shoot videos and tell stories. Yeah. So shoot videos and tell stories.
So Helen, does that resonate with you, or you come from a different perspective on like where's your client base coming from?
Okay, so with myself, excuse me. So with myself, I actually, I totally agree with Jason in terms of video. So video is king, but you know, from my perspective, I use Facebook a lot. So I'm very, very, very grateful to Mark Zuckerberg. And very grateful to him. I pray to his altar every single day. So I really do, because it is for me, it is the number one in terms of bringing in the clients, whether it's for my hypnotherapist clients or my end user clients. So, you would know that I'm on Facebook a lot. Every single day I'm on Facebook, and it pays off. It pays off. It really does. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing on Facebook. So I do a lot of Facebook Live. So I did one of my trainings that I did in St. Louis in Missouri. I was actually getting someone to do a Facebook Live on me while I was training. The whole time my zip was down. My zip of my trousers was down, and I just left it on there. So it doesn't matter, that's who I am. I wasn't going to delete it and do it again. It was like, that's who I am. So what actually happens in the middle of the training, I looked down and I went, oh my God, how come no one told me? And everyone's looking at me and saying, we didn't notice. So it doesn't matter whether I'm at a party or whether I am doing training or whether I'm just, talking to somebody else. Everybody knows what I do every single day. And like Jason said, when somebody comes into my office, for a free consult so that I could sell them a package, they look at me as if, oh, Helen, like they feel like they already know me. And same when people come to my meetups or my trainings, they feel like they already know me. And that is because they do already know me. So they already know me from my online presence and from constantly interacting, constantly talking. And it doesn't have to be about, the things that we're teaching or we're training. People buy people. Mm-hmm. So people need to know who you are as a person. And so the first thing that I tell my hypnotherapists is, if you don't want to get on Facebook, just get over it. Get over it. Because seriously, you're actually doing yourself a massive disservice, because we are so fortunate that we don't have to be in a shop front and for people to walk past and see the sign and for them to come in anymore. Yeah. We can reach people from across the world at any time of the day. And so it's crazy not to use Facebook, crazy. So, people say, you're all over Facebook or whatever, and some people don't like it. Well, don't unfriend me. You don't have to watch. But so really, it is getting into people's houses and getting into people's lives and people understanding what your values are, connecting with those values, your belief systems, constantly giving free values. So, I've got a hypnosis business success page on Facebook, which is just for hypnotherapists, about 1,600 members. And if you just scroll down, so mostly every Thursday I do a Top Tips Thursday video, there is hundreds of hours of free content and value that all you need to do is just listen, take notes. There's lots and lots and lots of value, and same with my YouTube channel. And that's the same with Jason as well. Not getting concerned about giving away things for free, constantly giving away things for free, because people know that if you give this away for free, what are they going to get when they pay for something? Something, way more in terms of value. So it's all about, and also this is key. It's knowing, absolute certainty, knowing that our peers are not our competitors.
Not at all.
So absolutely knowing that they're our support, not our competitors, because, the clients that, that are attracted to me for a reason. Clients are attracted to Jason for a reason. Right. And sure, we might have some clients go to each other as well, where we're offering complimentary services.
It's a horrible commute, though.
I like it. I get to watch movies and get served champagne. What else do I want?
Right, so listen, we're running out of time, so I just want to do one last thing quickly with each of you, okay? I want you to tell me and everybody else who's watching, I know you have a lot of things that you do and that you've done. I know you have a lot of different efforts and knowledge set. But I mean, if you could.
Hello.
Did you freeze up?
Uh-oh.
There we go. I think he's back.
Oh, am I back? Oh,
Yeah, you go.
I never. Oh, I'm back now. Okay, I didn't know I was gone until I heard Helen say hello.
Oh my God.
So what I was saying is, I know you guys have done a lot of different things to make your businesses successful, but if you could put your finger on one thing, one reason why you've done as well as you've done, what's that? Jason.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Helen, you said okay first. You go.
That there is no plan B. So when I say no plan B is that I decided that when I was going to become a hypnotherapist, that was it. That I was not going back to corporate in a soul-destroying job. I was going to make this happen. I was going to achieve exactly what I had set out to do. There was no plan B. It was going to happen. So I knew it. I expected it. I believed it. And you have to be that certain. So absolute 100% certainty that it will happen. Absolutely happen without a doubt, because there is no other way. There is no other way.
There you go, Jason. How are you going to beat that?
All right. So it really comes down to 3 points, which all fit into the one formula, which comes down to systems, assets, and leveraging. So I'm always looking at doing things in a systematic way, so I'm not having to reinvent the wheel. And the biggest thing is just the mindset of we're always building assets and we're always leveraging that towards success. So every TV appearance, I am still using. Every testimonial, I am still using. I mean, it goes back to the stage hypnosis career where I pulled off the ultimate, for the Simpsons fans, Troy McClure moment, which was that I got an article published in the magazine that principals read. And then it was there, but rather than going, well, hope they find it, no, I printed out a couple of 1,000 color copies and mailed that to everybody who want to be there.
Yeah.
So assets and leveraging. Here is this video testimonial from this guy curbing his sweet tooth that is now broadcasting by way of Facebook ads to people who are diabetic who would be interested in that video. So we're always gathering this momentum. It's the snowball going downhill. Your business should grow year after year after year. And you as an individual should grow year after year after year. So it's that mindset of always leveraging and moving it forward. So when you're gathering anything from every interaction, how am I going to use this again? Which kind of goes back to that video thing from before of, here's a consultant student of mine who's doing a talk next week, and it's me going, bring the video camera. Why? Because I'm still using talks that I did in 2010 on my website, and they're still working for me. So it's that mindset of that tenacious mindset that both of us have talked about, but at the same time, use that leverage to let it keep rolling and get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So cool. Well, you have squandered a perfectly good hour of your time listening to these people talk about, aren't they great? Listen, this is the thing. Like, if you've been wondering why you're not getting to that next level, hopefully what they've talked about today gives you something to think about. Follow up with them. Don't follow up with me. Follow up with them. Get in touch with Jason through Work Smart Hypnosis, or Virginia would be the best thing, right, Jason?
Yeah, either Work Smart Hypnosis or VirginiaHypnosis.com, either of those. The Work Smart Hypnosis podcast comes out every Thursday, again, featuring, this is Paul Ramsay week, because we're going to repurpose this, I believe.
No, y'all should really pay attention because it's Paul Ramsay week.
Paul Ramsay.
And if you want to follow up with Helen, what's the best way to follow up with you?
There's a couple of ways. One way is my website, HelenMitas.com. Another way is through Facebook, of course. So, connect with me. Make me your personal friend, and also join my group, my hypnosis group, Hypnosis Business Success.
Nice. All right, you guys, that's it. This has been a fantastic edition of the Colleague Circle. We'll see you again next month. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Yeah.